Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the National Timely Action Hour podcast. This is the show where we talk about everything from Star Wars to comic books and everything in between. My name is Aiden, and I hope that you're doing well today. Today, we are on Season 2, Episode 18. This is the top 10 Marvel Comics villains, in my opinion. Now, there are many great villains that I will not be mentioning just because I think that these are the most dastardly villains that Marvel Comics has to offer. So feel free to disagree with me if you don't like my list, but once again, this is just my personal opinion. So, starting us off, we have the Green Goblin, who first appeared in The Amazing Spider Man number 14, and he is the villain who has done the most damage to Spider-Man, not just physically, but also psychologically and emotionally. He's the one who, he was the first villain to figure out Spider-Man's secret identity and use that to his advantage to attack the ones he loves and attack him when he least expects it. And the Green Goblin is just a vicious son of a bitch, and that's why I think that he is probably my favorite Marvel villain because he is unapologetically evil. Moving on, we have Doctor Doom, who first appeared in the Fantastic Four number 5, and again, this is someone who is unapologetically evil and goes after the heroes when they are most vulnerable, and when they fight, it's very personal because Doctor Doom blames Mr. Fantastic for his disfigurement. Although, if you ask Jack Kirby, the creator of these characters, Doctor Doom only has a tiny scar on his cheek, but he's so vain that he can't accept that, he's still a good looking man. He thinks that he's a monster. And that's an interesting little piece of information about the villain's psychology. But Doctor Doom is great. He is intelligent. He is very talented when it comes to his skills in science and magic, and he is the king of his own made up Eastern European country, and he is just a vicious bastard. Then we have the Leader, who first appeared in Tales to Astonish number 62, and the Leader is a very interesting villain because, unlike other Hulk villains, the Leader is not as strong as the Hulk, or at least somewhat close to that level of strength, because the Hulk is the strongest one there is, but the Leader matches Bruce Banner intellectually, perhaps even surpasses him. And he can build contraptions to trap the Hulk, and he can rally up other villains to attack him. And I just really like him because he wants to destroy the Hulk and take his power so that he can rule the world because he thinks that he's the superior being. And villains who think that they are superior often have a chink in their armor that can be exploited by the hero, and often case it is, and the Leader is no exception. His hubris is his downfall, much like the Emperor in Star Wars. And yeah, I just think that the Leader is a very interesting character. And moving on, we have Magneto, who first appeared in the X-Men number 1. And Magneto is a very sympathetic villain. He is Jewish, and he was a victim of the Holocaust, and he survived. Unfortunately, his family did not, and that experience caused his mutant powers to manifest, and so ever since he's had a vendetta against humanity. And you understand why he is the way that he is, but his methods of bringing mutant supremacy are very evil. And there is sometimes when he just forgoes his sympathetic side and just goes all out on his evil actions, and so that cements him as a villain, but he's still a very tragic one. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the Red Skull, who first appeared in Captain America #1, and the Red Skull is part of the system that created Magneto because he was a top-ranking member of the Third Reich, and he is just pure evil because he's a Nazi. So obviously he's going to be one of the most evil people alive. Even if you call him a person, I would hesitate to say so myself. But yeah, he's been messing with Captain America since the beginning, and yeah, not much else I can say about him. I just think he's a good villain. And then we have the Crimson Dynamo, who is ideologically different from the Red Skull, and he first appeared in Tales of Suspense #46. He is a classic Iron Man villain who is a hardcore communist, and he will do anything for the USSR. And I just think that he is a really cool villain because he's got a suit of armor that can match Iron Man's, and he is honorable to an extent, but regardless, he wants to kill Iron Man, and he will not stop until he does. And I just think that he's a really cool villain. Then we have Dormammu, who first appeared in Strange Tales #126. And Dormammu is an interdimensional demon who fights Doctor Strange, and he is the ruler of the Dark Dimension, and his entire goal is to merge the Dark Dimension with our dimension so that he can reign supreme. And he is just eldritch evil incarnate, and I think that he's really cool. And yeah, not much else I can say. Then we have Loki, who first appeared in Journey into Mystery #85. And Loki is a vindictive and poisonous and vile pagan god who is the adopted brother of Thor, the Norse god of thunder. And Loki is just a joy to watch because he acts on a Shakespearean level of conniving, but deep down he's very pathetic. And I find that very interesting as a contrast to Thor, who, despite his godhood, is quite humble. And then we have Ultron, who first appeared in the Avengers #54. Now, Ultron was a robot created by Ant-Man as a way to bring about peace and prosperity to the world, but when you're messing with AI, it tends to go horribly wrong, and this is no exception. Now Ultron is hell-bent on destroying the Avengers and every life form on Earth so that he and his robot minions can rule the world. And genocide aside, I think that Ultron is very compelling because he claims to be very logic-based, but there are times when he attempts to create his own family because he attempted to create a wife for himself. That failed, so he tried again. Again, that failed. And then he tried to create a son for himself. I don't know exactly how that went, but I was just told that by someone who knows more about the Avengers than I do. But I just find that very interesting. And as a result, I think that Ultron is a very personal villain for the Avengers because one of the founding members created him. And finally, we have the Matador, who is a classic Daredevil villain, first appearing in the 5th issue of Daredevil. Now, many of you are thinking, why don't you have the Kingpin? Well, the Kingpin is a Spider-Man villain who fights Daredevil as well. I wanted to do a straight-up Daredevil villain, so the Matador is a man named Eduardo who is from Spain, and he hates Daredevil because he foiled his schemes, and he is a bull. He was a bull. Excuse me. He was a bullfighter who then turned to crime, hence his name, the Matador. And he's silly, but I think he's entertaining, and that's why I think that he is a good villain. And also, he's been there since the beginning for Daredevil, and there aren't too many of his villains who get the spotlight. So, those are the 10 best Marvel Comics villains, in my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think are the 10 best. And thank you so much for listening to the National Timely Action Hour. Once again, my name is Aiden. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe if you have not and are new to my podcast. And please check out my social media profiles where I post updates and you can send me messages. And also, you can check out my Patreon page and you can support the channel financially and get early access to episodes of the podcast and my YouTube videos. You can also see my personal writing projects. I have written some poems that I've put up there, and I posted a couple of updates on the novel that I'm writing. And again, you can send me a message there, and I'll also leave the links. You can also check out my merch store where you can buy a t-shirt or a coffee mug or a sweater with my logo on it. So thank you so much for listening. I sincerely hope that you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.